Greetings, everybody. This is Dani Filth from Cradle of Filth, and you're listening to Sonic Perspectives.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Sonic Perspectives. This is Jonathan, and I am here with the man himself, the visionary who originally sated our voracious appetite for voluptuous vixens of the vampiric persuasion, Dani Filth. How you doing?
I'm cool. That just rolled off the tongue, that didn't it?
Yeah, I've seen V for Vendetta a few too many times. All right, so to get right down to it, we have got a new album that's about a little less than 2 months out, I think. So let's just jump right into it. Any details that you want to reveal without giving away too many spoilers?
Well, there's a new video coming out next week, I believe. It should have come out 2 weeks ago with the release of the second single, but unfortunately, it was being filmed in LA at the time of the fires, so they had to evacuate, and it was only actually filmed um, last week, and I literally just signed off the edit for it today. So that'll be coming out, and there'll be a third video for the song White Hellebore that will accompany the album release on March 21st.
Wow. All right. So we got some stuff to look forward to in the meantime. That's great. Yeah. So basically, were there any changes as far as like the production of the album? Any changes in personnel from behind the control panel? I know there's been a few lineup changes since the last album.
Yeah, no, it's the same. We use the same producer. We just utilize different techniques, and of course, we're writing new songs. um, yeah, Scott Atkins is our resident producer, and I say resident because he's worked with us probably for the last 15 years. He's very close to where I live in England, in the countryside, and he is involved since the embryonic stages of writing a record, and he helps steer the ship. He's one of those people that doesn't stand on. Put it this way, he doesn't mix words. So if it's shit, he'll tell you it's shit,
Mm.
which is great, because everybody needs that. Like maybe Metallica could do with a bit of that and all. Um, but the point of it is, he's very astute, very creative, and he gets the best out of everybody, and we feel comfortable working with him. So obviously, if it's not broken, don't try and fix it. Um, and Yeah, I mean, it's a new album, new techniques, new ways of recording, new plugins, that sort of thing. Yeah, and the production's great, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, absolutely. So the name of the album is yeah, just slipped my mind there. The Screaming of the Valkyries. And that didn't have anything to do with the recent acquisition of a particular keyboardist and backing vocalist, did it? Well, Zoe always struck me as a bit of a Valkyrie, or at least she
Oh,
did.
okay, I see what you mean. Yeah, well, absolutely. I mean, well, she's I've literally just come. Well, I say literally, it was 3 weeks ago, but I came back from her wedding to our other guitarist, Ashok,
Hmm.
in Arizona. So she's from Arizona, but she's got Finnish heritage, as you can
Hmm.
tell by the bleach blonde hair. Well, not bleach blonde; it's her natural hair. Sorry, it looks like that. But no, the title, despite sounding very heavy metal, I'm ashamed to admit, is influenced by, I don't know, the political turmoil in the world. In respect of, if you were to hear the screaming of the Valkyries as a metaphor, or in actuality, it would be you would know that it was Ragnarok, it was the end of days, because it would be heaven was being overrun. Our last source of protection would be being overrun and destroyed. Um, and that was inspired by the fact that we're very, very, even infinitely more closer to the midnight hour on the doomsday clock at present. And obviously, that's fueled by the war in Ukraine and Russia, whatever North Korea are doing at the moment, the tensions between China and Taiwan, uh, uh, Palestine and Israel. I mean, the inauguration of Donald Trump and his reaction to all of this. So yeah, yeah, temperamental times, and yeah, I guess that's where the um, album kind of not the album, but that title came from, and it was a again, like I said, it was also a very good heavy metal title and fitted the artwork that adorns the artwork because I gave it to the artist with the lyrics and said, "Do your worst."
His worst was pretty damn good, if you ask me. But
No,
yeah, so does the album itself carry like a recurring theme that relates to sort of the tumult of the day, or was that more of just a general statement? Each song is sort of its own story.
it's its own story. Our modus operandi for this record was to dispense with the idea of a special edition or bonus tracks that you can only get on in Timbuktu or something like that. Going to get what we've written. That's it. This is the 70s or 80s. We've written a lengthy album, but it's 9 songs. No intro, no outro, no, halfway fucking video display of the Super Bowl in the middle. It's just the album. And it's a good album. And we just wrote it. We wanted 9 very strong, catchy tunes. And when I was presented with some of the embryonic stages of the tracks, most of them immediately struck up a chord with me, and I was like, "Well, I know what that's going to be about. I know what that's going to be about. Non omnis moriar. I know what that song is going to be about." So, an overarching theme that unites uh, the tracks, but it isn't a concept record. Everybody thinks we're going to do a conceptual record every time. We haven't done one for like 15 years, I think. But like King Diamond, everybody thinks that's our thing.
Yeah, and everybody complains whenever he tries to get out of it too. And admittedly, I'm not going to blow any smoke up your ass and say I've been following you since the early '90s because I was a 10-year-old age of 12 at that time. But I did first get into you guys with Damnation in a Day. And was that the last concept album that you actually did, or?
No, there was 2 more after that. The Gilles de Rais one, Godspeed and the Devil's Thunder, and then the one about Lilith, the first Trespasser, which was Darkly, Darkly, Venus Versa.
Ah. All right. So, as far as the songwriting goes, it did seem a little bit more, I guess you could say, more streamlined, a little bit more in your face. Was there any difference in who was handling the songwriting duties, who was doing the arranging, or was it kind of the same breakdown and just a different mindset?
We've got a different lineup, and yeah, I should imagine the new guys with their would be pushing their entry level Cradle inspirations to the fore, because they were fans before they joined the band. And New Blood is good all the way around. It injects a fresh perspective on everything, and as a band, we can sort of self cannibalize ourselves because we created this sound, and if we want to hark back to some that uh, music that is reminiscent of some of our earlier works, and then so be it. But we always have one eye on the future. Um, and when people join the band, they're obviously expected to wear many hats, and obviously the most important one is that you have to write. You're not a pretty face, and it's everybody else's job. Um, and so, yeah, the album was written by everybody, and we had fun with it. I think it's also a product of the fact that the last 3 years we've been pretty much on the road 24/7. The album itself it took a year to record because of that, because we'd do the drums, then we'd be away for 8 weeks. We'd have a little bit of time off, then we'd come to do the guitars, and then we go on tour again. So that was kind of unique to the way we finished the record as well.
Great, yeah. And as far as the individual songs go, I'll try to stick mostly to the ones that are already out. So again, as few spoilers as possible. To Live Deliciously, this was the first one I got a chance to hear, and I mean, for me, that's a steak and a Guinness every night. But I think you intended something a little bit deeper than that when you wrote the song. So could you get into the lyrical content of that one?
It's just a life mantra, you know. It's about, I guess it's like everything is permissible. You can do whatever you want. Human laws are just, you know, that they're made by the majority, and generally, you know, life is here to be embraced while we have it, but not at the cost of, you know, treading on other people's toes. You have to have a little bit of respect, i.e., don't be a cunt. That's I
Mm.
think that's the moral compass here. But yeah, just live life to the full. Even and obviously, you're talking about a band that has sort of a dark obsession. So um, I guess it has a little bit of a Marquis de Sade quality to it as well. But we wanted something that was to introduce the album on a positive note. Um, so yeah, it's like a life code, a mantra to live deliciously, to indulge, desire, and darken.
I gotcha. And then one of the other songs in here that I really enjoyed, and I'm just going to touch on it briefly because it's not one of the singles, Non Omnis Moriar. Probably the closest thing to a lullaby I've ever heard from you guys, and definitely earworm material, probably more so than even the Wrath of Khan. So, was there anything? Yeah,
We got it.
yeah, anything unique about the songwriting process there? Anybody have a little bit more input that hadn't before? Or...
Well, we were attempting with this album to make every track an earworm.
Mhm.
Um, but sorry, not on this Moria. I mean, that was one of the first songs, like I said, that when I heard the original composition, I was like, I know what this song's going to be about. And non omnis Moria means not all of me will die, meaning that I will leave something with you. I leave my heart with you. And it's I guess it's someone talking to their nearest and dearest, their closest, their loved one, cherished person, a friend they hold deeply, on the deathbed saying, look, I'm dying, but we'll meet again. Our friendship or our love is so strong it will survive the grave. And trust me, there's an afterlife. Whatever it is, we'll find each other there.
That's one beautiful lamentation, if I do say so myself. So anyway, just to get into a little bit of, and you'll forgive again the pun here, but you've been a hot topic for over 30 years right now, and your voice.
Coming
I
to stay, aren't they?
Yeah, 30 more years of wear and tear on the voice, and yet you're still tearing it up. I can actually remember first seeing the music video for her Ghost in the Fog, and my mom overheard it, and she said, well, they look like vampires, but what's with all the high-pitched screaming? I'm like, Mom, they got to break all the mirrors so nobody knows. So, over the years, have you had any difficulties in maintaining your voice, and particularly in a live setting, is it difficult to pull some of that stuff off?
No, no, not at all. I mean, yeah, years have just brought wisdom, and I see a doctor who does well. He's more of a singing coach doctor thing, you know. He does all this vocal manipulation, just and the one time I had a big problem was back in 2008, and we were no, sorry, 2006. We were writing. We'd written an album. We were in the studio, and my voice just didn't work. And they brought in a vocal coach called Melissa Cross from America, and then they even got me to see a um, like someone who you know tests your blood and what food you eat and that. And just by pure chance of going to see a vocal doctor, like to put one of those stephos, you know, those whatever they do, they put that thing down your throat. It's horrible. Camera. He said, you know, I can't see anything wrong, but I tell you what, here's a number because I saw someone not so long ago who was an opera singer, and I sent them along to this person, and I went to see this Jewish guy who literally just dealt with opera singers and people on well, not Broadway, but the English equivalent of that, the West End. And it turned out I had like tennis elbow of the throat. I just was singing from the wrong part and I was overwearing it, like turning a car battery over continuously or being in the wrong gear. And he corrected that, and I haven't looked back since. Um, and yeah, and it's a thing that hits a lot of people where they haven't mastered the machinery of what they do, and they're kind of like just ragging it, like over revving. Uh, and when they know where it's from and they readjust it, it all kind of fell in place. Not saying that I'm, you know, um, averse to wear and tear, but over the years you learn how to deal with it. I have my what works for me. Like people say, you should write a book about it, and I said, well, it would be very thin, and also what works for me doesn't work for anybody else I've ever spoke to, other than you know, steaming and you know, special teas and drinking blackcurrant as opposed to water that dries you out, and avoiding alcohol and the usual stuff. I say it's just when I explain to people how I sing, they go, "Fuck, I can't do that." And I'm amazed as well by some of these new people that come out with these weird fucking frog and pig vocals. I'm like, wow, that's bizarre. But yeah, each to their own.
Yeah, I definitely prefer at least being able to understand what's being said, even if the
But
voice.
I found over the years, like people say that, oh my, you were more brutal back in your days. Like, well, yeah, but you know what? It's actually, and this is the truth of it all, the harder to do this with pronunciation, to make it legible
Mhm.
is 20 times harder, maybe more, than just, going full out and sounding like, a tortured pig. Uh, Making it illegible. To make it legible and people can hear it is the trick. And it's tricky.
And that's one of the things I noticed. All the original greats of both death and black metal, there was definitely intelligibility there. Sometimes you had to adjust your ears a little bit, but whether it was David Vincent or if it was Izon, I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name right. That right, you could pretty much understand what was being said. And on that note, I just wanted to ask you straight out. What exactly would you call the specific stylistic niche that Cradle of Filth has? Because everybody seems to have a different label for it.
But you know what? The ultimate accolade would be to be just remembered, post band, disseminating or whatever, um, would just be known by your name because, and I know it's a big leap, but Iron Maiden, Metallica, for example, they would go, oh, have you ever heard of that new wave of British? Well, there used to be new wave of British heavy metal slash thrash, Bay Area thrash slash, band Metallica. You don't need to know what music are. By the definition of their title, it's become almost like its own little power source. The same with Iron Maiden. You know what it says what it does on the tin. You don't have to go into a diagnosis. Even with people who are into Taylor Swift, they've heard of the band. So that would be the biggest accolade, because basically and with this album as well, when we write music, we don't think, you know what, by this algorithm, we now need to add to this, you know, mathematical equation 20% death metal, 30% gothic rock, a little bit of new wave of Brit. We don't look at it like that. We write music, and if it works, it works. And if it sounds good, it sounds good.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the original progenitors, excuse me, of those styles thought of it the same way. I think it was more people like me coming up with labels to try to understand what we were
I
hearing.
think it's record stores coming up with labels so you can find where the records are lying, but they're getting fewer and far between now, aren't they?
Hmm. Definitely, yeah. And I think it's measured now less in units sold than it is minutes spent listening. And
Exactly. As you can see, this is real. This isn't a Zoom background. I'm all for that. I'm not. I mean, just I owe it to my brethren in metal and music not to have a fucking Spotify account, because they don't pay people, and it's not just them. It's just platforms in general. And I appreciate the fact that from that people can discover you from another band, and whatever. I've heard it a million times, but I'm old school. I want CDs, I want vinyl, I want my bands to be paid, because if they're not paid, they're not bands anymore. And I know so many people from big bands that since the pandemic have gone, you know what? I'm taking a proper job, so you'll see me less often. We'll still be doing albums, but probably once every 5 years, because music has just been. It's just see like daylight robbery. Like if you worked, if you owned a delicatessen or a fucking supermarket, even people aren't allowed to just come in and help themselves to free produce. You know,
Mhm.
which is what people think they're entitled to do with music because it's a periphery thing and it's in the air. You can't physically touch music. But how do you expect bands to survive without that? Okay, yeah, sure, music getting bigger and bigger, but that's because the Taylor Swifts of the world and the Ed Sheerans, whom we've just done a song with,
Yeah.
are everywhere. If you work in a delicatessen or you work on a building site and you've got the radio on, chances are you can hear one of those two, or Beyonce or whatever, or you know Megan Thee Stallion within fucking 5 minutes of putting it on, and it's kind of a mind control because you're adjusted to that. You remember those songs because that's all you hear.
Yeah, I mean, speaking for myself, I always saw radio the same way back in the 90s. And so I ended up amassing a personal collection of about 2,000 CDs. I'm proud to say that around roughly 10 of them are yours. And I definitely miss the days where there were physical
Proper
media
charts,
stores.
proper charts. So you
Mhm.
knew, what happened to the 80s charts? Now you can have like Taylor Swift literally having all top 10, you know?
Mhm.
It's a really weird setup. Obviously, they really try with movies, and there's more money involved in movies, obviously.
Mhm.
But in England, we used to have these, not up to very recently, this whole advert that had before the movie starts where video piracy is killing the movie industry. And they'd even go to the point where they'd have this slamming prison doors, woof in IMAX quality sound. THX, you're going to prison if you watch a bootleg movie. But not the same I know they back in the day it was home taping is killing music, but nowadays it's like a fucking free for all.
Yeah, you figure at some point something's going to have to give because I do still think there are plenty of people out there who want a metal scene that's actually intact. But right now, people
No,
are
I,
still
I
figuring
think
this
the
out.
metal scene is probably one of the most, um, loyal and also one of the most um, agitated scenes. Everybody hate. Oh, that band. I love Arch Enemy. Do you? What about In Flames? Oh no, they're fucking shit. So the metal scene's so carnivorous,
Yeah.
so cannibalistic, yet probably the most loyal. And yeah, people they wear their hearts on the sleeves. They wear their bands on their battle jackets, and
Mhm.
they'll go and buy you know the blood splattered vinyl, or they'll buy the special edition if there was one.
Yeah, absolutely. And on that note, I think you had mentioned this briefly. You name dropped Iron Maiden, and I'm going to do this just as a favor to a buddy of mine. Oh, years back, you did a rather impressive cover of "Hallowed Be Thy Name." I think it was a bonus track on "Cruelty and the Beast." And has that been rolled out recently in any live performances, or is that something you just kind of put on the back burner after the '90s?
Well, actually, no, though we were touring Cruelty and the Beast because we did a Remistressed, which was a remastered. Where we took the original album and totally stripped it back and brought it kicking and screaming into the present day, and subsequently went out on tour in support of that and played the whole of the album and Hallowed Be Thy Name.
Oh, right.
And because we decided to put that on the Remistress version as well, because we knew how much people loved it. So yeah, we have played it a lot. Apart from Dallas, Dallas was horrible. Dallas was where somebody started like it was one of the first shows of the tour, and our our rather overzealous, enigmatic stagehand decided to run the intro for that before anybody was near the stage.
Oh.
I came on and was like where I thought the cue was, started singing, and then suddenly the band had to kick in. I was like, what the fuck? But yeah, fortunately, that was the only mistake we made. And yeah, good fun playing that song.
Yeah, great. Yeah, well, my buddy, his name's Jason. He's been a long time fan of yours. He caught you on, I think you were Ozfest, I think it was back in the '90s. I think he was at. I'm trying to remember. This was before
I
I
know
got
it was Ozfest. It was actually 2003.
2003. That's it. Yeah, and I don't. I think he was waiting to hear that one, and I think that wasn't in the rotation at the time. So he was kind of pulling on my ears,
Well,
saying,
we only had like, we were headlining the B stage. We had like what, 45 minutes or something, 50 minutes. So we're going to keep to our own stuff.
hmm. Yeah, that definitely makes sense. So, moving back to the album itself, I know we've got an April release date. What's the touring situation looking like surrounding the album? Anything leading up to it or immediately following it? What are the plans?
Well, we've got a few months off at the moment because we've been very, very busy the last 3 years.
Mhm.
But it's not really time off because obviously I'm sat here doing interviews. So I say there's some videos to come before the release of the album on the 21st of March. And then mid-April, we co-headline with Dying Fetus the Chaos and Carnage touring festival across the States. Then we come to Europe and we have like we headline the tent stage at Download Donington, and do a bunch of summer festivals, play a load of gigs that link those up with the great band Nervosa in support. Then we
Mm.
go to South America, um, late August through September, and then we have something amazing planned for the end of the year, but I can't talk about it because
Mm.
I'll jinx it.
Yeah, definitely not. Don't give too much away, though. We got to have a little bit of mystique surrounding the band here. All right. So, are there any other things that you wanted to say? Do a quick shout out to the fans or anything before we wrap? Because I think Zoom is biting on my heels here about the
Yeah,
amount
I was
of time.
doing an interview and I was really getting into this description, and the fucking thing just went boop, halfway through and just cut off, and it
Uh,
just said, "Sorry, your Zoom interview has ended." Like, wow. Um, yeah. Well, no, like I said, the album's coming out. We've got loads of live shit coming out. To Live Deliciously, the video for that should be out either next week or the week after. Delayed because of the fires in LA where
mhm.
it was being shot. And then the third video will come out mid-March. Um, check us out. Go to Instagram or our Facebook pages because they'll have all the news of all the shows we'll be doing for the next 2 years. Um, yeah, I can't say much more than that, but go and check out the new album, The Screaming of the Valkyries. It rocks.
Absolutely. To all my American
It's
fans out
back
there,
in the rocks.
hell yes. All my fellow Americans out there, buy this album. Just because you're a Yank doesn't mean you have to be a wank. Get off of Spotify and buy this sucker.
Couldn't said it better myself.
All right. Well, thanks a lot, Danny. I hope I didn't come off as too much of a fanboy here, trying to keep it semi-professional at least.
No, no, I enjoy it when people are actually into it.
All right. Great stuff. All right. Well, I'll try to catch you on the road and definitely going to check this album out. And who knows, maybe I'll be able to pen a review for it.
Cool. Yeah, I'd like to see you out on the road. Thanks ever so much.
All right. Thank you.
Take care, Jonathan.
You
Cheerio.
too.
Bye.
Bye.